In emergency management, the definition of a stakeholder is any person or entity with a vested interest in the survival or recovery of a given community.
This is the Stakeholder Prepping podcast, where the tactical comes from the practical, and today, you become your own stakeholder.
Here are your hosts, Chris and AC.
Welcome back to Stakeholder Prepping, where you, yes, you, are the stakeholder in your own survival. And AC, this week, I just kind of want to start off by saying how important it is to get the whole family involved in prepping. It doesn't really work when you're the only one in your family or your group who's with the program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. You can't go this alone. If you're in a family or group, or even if you're not, man, it's tough to go it alone if you're going to think about ever trying to survive an SHTF situation because you've got to sleep at some point. Somebody's got to watch your back, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we're going to talk about prepping with kids today, prepping with children. So let's chat about how to involve our children in emergency preparedness without scaring them silly. And we'll look at kind of some fun and practical ways to teach kids valuable skills. What gear is kind of essential for kids' safety, and how to build like that resilient family unit. No matter what kind of disaster might come at you. And when I was writing this, outline down. And it was like I just had like prepping kids, and I was like, "Oh man, it's gonna sound like a cooking show or something." and it got me. Did you ever see the old Twilight Zone? There was the one. It's called To Serve Man. Did you ever see that one?
Yes.
And that's what it
that
was?
freaked me out.
It was one of the scariest ones ever. It's like in the 60s, it was the old black and white Twilight Zone, but it was yeah, they were aliens, and all they wanted to do was like serve us, and they wanted to like take us to their cool world and give us all these cool gifts. And then they translated To Serve Man, and it was actually a cookbook. And that's what I thought about when I was writing the Prepping Kids episode.
Modern day retelling of Hansel and Gretel.
Exactly. I was like, oh, no. So it's prepping for children. It's prepping with children, but it's not prepping children. Although I'm sure they're delicious. So, but yeah, this is like the prepping with kids episode.
Yeah, and I really like this. I mean, obviously, you don't have kids, I don't have kids, so we did get some input from people who do have kids on this episode. But I think a lot of us, when we think about prepping, we kind of have it built in our heads, like we're envisioning bunkers and doomsday scenarios and watching the sky turn to fire from the security camera over our bunker. And families, it's really about building confidence and safety. So why is it so important to involve, the little ones and children in preparedness? Well, to me, it goes beyond the obvious safety benefits. It really does empower kids. It teaches them problem solving. It teaches them resilience, kind of that sense of responsibility, so that when emergencies do strike, children who understand what's happening and what their role is, they're less likely to panic, and panic leads to death. So they're less likely to get put in that situation. They become active participants rather than just that helpless bystander. So maybe that disclaimer that we don't have children, but we do both have
Right.
kids in our lives. So this information can be important and useful for everyone, whether you have a child of your own or not.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like you said, neither one of us have kids, but we do have children in our lives. There's nieces and nephews, and you never know uh, what some SHTF event is going to throw at you. You never know if the neighbor kids are going to have to come over because there's a snowstorm and they lose power or something like that. And just having the tools to deal with children in some kind of scenario like that are valuable, even if it's not this apocalyptic scenario you're thinking of where, you've got to take care of your children or your nieces and nephews, but just being able to deal with the neighbors' kids if they have to come over because, yeah, there's a power outage or something like that. It's just good to think about. So, and when we say children, I'm using air quotes. I think there's obviously an age range here, right? We want to make this applicable. So, e- below a certain age, children, they really just can't contribute a ton to the group, right? So, I think we're talking about the 7 or 8 year olds on up to maybe the early teenagers when they become just like little adults that can think for themselves. So, like in that age range, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think you need, a 4-year-old running around with a sledgehammer in one hand and an AR in the other. I don't think that's going to end well for anyone, but they're prepared for anything.
The kid in a Mad Max Road Warrior. Remember, he had the razor sharp boomerang.
Yep.
Yeah, and the
Yep.
dog or whatever. Yeah, so yeah, obviously kids can be valuable for things like that. But basically, we're talking about this range where kids are old enough to be able to use their reasoning skills and like carry small items and contribute it in that kind of way, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of the kid I have envisioned right now.
Yeah, and I have 2 very specific children that are part of my life. I have them in mind for this, so this is kind of focused on, what would I do for them if
Yeah,
they have no place else to go. Those 2 are coming along with us and the dogs.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good call.
How would you feel if we kind of go back and forth with some of the tips and tricks? I mean, we'll generate some dialogue in here, but some of those tips that you can use to teach kids about prepping.
Yeah, I like that. So I'm thinking kind of the tips and tricks, and then we can talk about the tech, the items that are sort of kid specific for prepping. We can go back and forth on all that kind of stuff. And we have a couple of our sponsors and affiliates, I think that we really can work in here specifically for prepping with children. So yeah, I'm game for that.
100%. So I'll kick it off. I'll start with one that can be extremely useful. And I love to play this all the time, but this is the what if game. So during dinner or during a car ride, play the what if game. What if the power went out right now? What would we do first? What if we were at the park and got separated? What's our plan? What if we went to a baseball game and there was a lightning strike? All sorts of different scenarios that you can just ask what their take is on it. How would they react? And then you can gauge what their preparedness level already is and kind of help to guide what you want that response to look like more effectively, more efficiently, and less chaotic.
Yeah, so this is that it really is. You could do this real world too. I'm guessing you can be in the grocery store with your kid and say, "Hey, what if we just got separated right now? What if I asked you to go grab bananas and you came back and I wasn't here? What would you do?"
That's a great one. Or, what if this grocery store didn't have your favorite cereal? I know you're screaming for Lucky Charms right now, but what if they didn't have it? What would we do then?
Yeah, that's right. Or even you could go as far as, what if the lights went out right now in the grocery store? What if it was pitch black? What would you do?
That's
So,
a really good one.
yeah, I think you're right. The what if game that's great because you can do that anywhere. Any scenario where you are with your child and you can just say, "What if this thing happened?" Because a kid's mind is crazy, man. You ever ask kids random questions? It's nuts. Like they
I'm
come up with stuff
pretty
we don't.
sure that's where we got the A-10 Warthog. We built a plane around a gun because some 5-year-old drew it on a piece of paper and his dad was an engineer for Lockheed Martin or Boeing or something like that.
You're exactly right. I'm 100% with you on that. It was like, "Hey, we want to build an airplane that's like really tough and has a whole bunch of bombs on it." And some kid was like, "I've got an idea. Can it have a shark face?"
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm no offense to anyone who's Navy, but I'm pretty sure that's where the Navy and Coast Guard ranks came from as well, was a 5-year-old with a crayon.
Senior chief petty officer of something something support. Yeah.
No hate on the Navy. You
No,
guys
no,
are awesome,
no,
but
no hate, but you're exactly, yeah. That's too funny. Along those lines, yeah. We built the Warthog around that Vulcan cannon. We built the F-14 Tomcat around the Phoenix missile. And it became like one of the most iconic aircraft ever with that whole swept wing design and all that kind of stuff. And they literally built it because they're like, we do not have an aircraft that we can throw off of a aircraft carrier that can hold 6 missiles that can go like 1 billion miles. And so they designed the F-14 Tomcat, and it's just this amazing airplane. But
Just to carry the Mach 6 telephone pole.
yeah, that's right. We could talk about airplanes all day. We won't do that. But it's something else you can do. And this is kind of fun, is that you can turn preparedness tasks into a game. So like a scavenger hunt is a great one, right? Like if you're just at dinner, you say, hey, go, where's the nearest flashlight? And you get kids thinking about that because maybe they generally don't dig around in the flashlight drawer, right? So getting them to think about that as a game, and then they know where it is when it's not a game. So you can do role-playing scenarios, let's find all the things we need to have a picnic in the dark. And then this involves flashlights and blankets and non-perishable snacks. And then next thing you know, when the power does go out, it's not super sad dark dinner. It is picnic in the dark. And it's Fort Picnic.
We've done that. We made grilled cheese and tomato soup on a gas stove during a power outage.
Right. Did you do it inside? Did you drag the barbecue inside, Chris? Tell me you didn't do that.
No, our stove is actually natural gas. So we
Okay.
did light it with a lighter because the electric starter wouldn't work.
The
But
piezo ignition wouldn't work. You're right.
yeah, we made we used mini naan bread,
Mhm.
and then just slices of like Havarti with dill and a little bit of butter, and then we cooked up some tomato soup and had little finger lit cheese sandwiches with
Right.
tomato dip.
You had picnic in the dark.
Yep.
I like it. This is actually a real game, and this is fun. I do want to talk about this a little bit. I'm not like sponsored by them. It was just a really cool game that a friend of mine brought over, a card game with his kid called Ravine. And you should check this out. I as far as like learning how to prep with kids, watching the kids' brain work during this game, it was very interesting to me because it's kind of this cooperative card game where it doesn't really put an emphasis on winning. It puts an emphasis on surviving together. And many of the choices the card game gives you, it's not just like, hey, give yourself a meal. It's like, hey, give you and one other player a meal. And so naturally, you would look around at the players that have the least amount of, life points or whatever it is, and you would give it to that person. So it was actually a very cool card game called Ravine. And it's kind of like the goal is to survive until people are rescued. So it's sort of like simulates a plane crash where, hey, we all crashed and we get to draw a bunch of cards and kind of choose what happens. But it's got some cool like prepper themes in it, like resource management. Like the game sort of directly teaches the importance of managing your resources, which I liked. Like players kind of have to decide when to spend their health, their heart tokens, if you will, to say forage for more resources. So things like that were really cool. It helps kids work on risk assessment. So you forage for resources, but every time you choose to forage, you lose some amount of resources, and you're kind of gambling on whether or not you will get more resources than you use to forage. So think about that in a survival scenario where you're like, hey, it's going to take some amount of my energy to go out and get food. And how
I gotcha.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? So like how risk adverse am I to like, hey, if I'm gonna burn 1,000 calories peeling a bunch of walnuts, am I going to get 1,000 calories worth of walnuts in return? So the game sort of teaches that kind of mentality, right? This like, is it worth me spending my resources to get more resources? And again, it's kind of a cooperation and teamwork type thing. So it's kind of I think they call it a cooperative game, which is totally foreign to me, right? When you come from the Monopoly generation, it's like, how do I destroy everyone? But, but this game was different, that it kind of teaches people to survive together. So they're encouraged actually, like, the gameplay encourages you to share resources and openly discuss strategy. So, like, different capabilities in the group, like, "Hey, we wanna build a fire, like, you've got a match and I've got wood." It's like things like that, if it makes sense. So, it's this very, cooperative thing, and it really teaches a lot of things about adaptability, and I got out of it personally, like, even the importance of, like, the go bag. You can sort of use the game's core concept as this springboard for a real world discussion about preparedness. Like, the items players, like, build and forage, they call it crafting in the game. Um, it's kinda compared to the items you would pack in a real life emergency kit or a go bag. Like, "Hey, do you need a fire starter? Do you need shelter materials? Do you need food?" And you could just see that, the way a kid's brain worked like that. And I just really thought that, it did a good job of that. And the last thing I would mention is that it kinda teaches that adaptability. So, you have a very random nature of these night cards. So basically, every card draw is every gameplay is basically a night you spend, and it's very random. And so you kind of have to adapt to that. Like, okay, well, we decided to forage, but we didn't get anything, or we decided not to start a fire. And then the wind came in and we all got sick because of it or whatever. So it teaches that adaptability. But anyway, yeah, check it out. I was just impressed with that game, and I don't think it's a prepper game. I mean, it's not marketed to preppers or for prepping. It's just a more of a, I think, teaching kids that cooperative social skill thing. Like, hey, maybe take care of other people too. Like, I think that was the idea of the game. But in my prepper mind, I was like, man, this is great for teaching kids that it's not we can't win unless we all survive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really does. I'm gonna have to check it out because I'm interested to play it,
Yeah.
even without kids. Like, I just wanna go and
No,
dig
I
through the
thought
cards and
Yeah.
play.
I thought about you guys, actually. I was like, you guys would enjoy this kind of game, even though, yeah, you don't have kids. It's just that cooperative kind of mindset. It just made a lot of sense. So, anyway, yeah, check it out. It's called Ravine. We'll post a link to it on the website, but I just thought it was a cool way to play a game. And then after the fact, you could talk to the kids and say, hey, why did we all die? Or why did we all survive? And all of a sudden, you're in the real world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that kinda brings up my next point, which is practice, practice, practice. I mean, your kids at school, it's just like those fire drills at school and the tornado drills that we had when I was growing up, and for anyone who's older than our generation, the hide under your desk, like,
Duck and cover, baby.
yeah, the duck and cover, Bert the turtle. Bert the turtle, duck and cover, yeah.
Yep.
So, I don't think a desk is really gonna protect you from nuclear annihilation, but it kept kids calm, it kept them under their desk where they could be found, and it kept them kinda centralized without running
Right.
amok on the streets. And it's just like the fire drills and the nuclear holocaust drills and everything like that. You have to practice your family emergency plans. So walk through your escape routes, practice your meeting points, set up a point away from your house, away from fire danger, like the street pole out by the end of the driveway. If there's ever a fire, get out of the house and then we're all going to meet right there. This is our spot. You can do that with dogs as well. If you can train a dog to go on a recall, if they ever do slip their leash, get out of the backyard, and they know their spot, they'll be waiting for you in the driveway by the time you get home from looking for them. That or they're just hungry. That's what our husky did. But you can practice all of this, and you can even have kind of those dark dinners that you were talking about, or you can have a fire drill on a Saturday night in the middle of the weekend after the kids have gone to bed, but you're still up, have a fire drill, see how they react. They're going to be tired and cranky, but they get to go back to bed. So may as well practice, practice, practice. And that way you kind of build that as muscle memory instead of just panic mode, the fight or flight.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is practicing your preps. We always talk about this, obviously, but yeah, having that be more muscle memory and less freaking out because the house is on fire. If you're always practicing fire drills, then kids are just going to go into like fire drill mode when there is actually a fire, and it's just not going to be that crazy. I can see us getting pretty out of control too, like throwing smoke bombs down the hallway or something, like getting really crazy. What's the there was one episode of The Office where Dwight, the fire drill episode, where he like locked one of the doors and then used a propane torch to like heat the back of the doorknob to actually make it hot.
Yep. I can see kids going home to their parents and being like, Uncle AC threw a flashbang down the hallway at me.
We were simulating a government overreach, kids. I mean, what are you going to do? So, yeah, practice, obviously, that's huge. Another one is involving them in your gear selection is huge, right? Like, let's asking the kids, like, hey, what do you think the importance is of having a fire starter? What's the importance of having an emergency shelter? What's the importance of having snacks? And let the kids run through it in their head. Let them choose their emergency backpack, pick out the specific flashlight for themselves. Even help them pack like the go bag, like with their snacks. This gives them it gives them ownership. And you had mentioned this too, that sense of responsibility. It gives them ownership and responsibility over their own gear, and it makes them feel like a valuable part of their team. And I think that, one, obviously kids, like their hands are smaller. So letting a kid actually pick out their own tool or flashlight is huge, because you might just go to Costco and buy the 4-pack of that awesome Duracell 1200 lumen flashlight, which by the way is an awesome 4-pack of flashlights. But if the kid can't wrap his hand around it, or your child doesn't have enough thumb strength or dexterity to actually push that button on, then that's useless to the kids. So letting them actually take ownership of the equipment. And then I think it does give them a little bit of sense of self-responsibility, because obviously kids lose stuff all the time. And if you give them ownership of it, then they're less likely to lose it. It's not like in the army where if you lost a piece of gear and they just like freak out and you be doing push-ups the rest of your life. You can't punish children like that.
You're not going to make it very far if you do.
Right.
But yeah, the Army, if you lose a piece of gear, you're either paying for it physically or out of your paycheck. Um, so
Or
I,
both.
I pretty much guarantee my 4-year-old bug out bag would have been like Gushers, fruit roll-ups, and maybe a pocket knife, probably an extra pair of shoelaces, and a DVD copy of Pound Puppies: The Legend of Big Paw. That was all I cared about.
That's a legit bug out. Yeah, I like that. So I would say Gushers are solid. I would probably have maybe the bubble tape, because think about just how all the different things you could do with 6 feet of bubble gum. I mean, you're repairing anything at that point, right? You're putting an outfit back together if you have to.
Yeah, that or Big League Chew. I
Big
probably would have
League
thrown
Chew
that
is a
in
good
there.
one. Right, yeah. But bubble tape also, it's 6 feet. So if you don't eat any of it, you can actually measure with it. It serves a purpose. And then probably I would go with like the jerky. Remember the jerky stuff? Like it was like the chewing tobacco can, but it was beef jerky.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
High
I
in
remember that.
protein, high in electrolytes. I'm telling you, man, it's good for you.
And one thing that I wish would have been kind of in my backpack as a kid, now looking back on it, it wasn't available back when we were kids, and it is available now. Mad Gear. They actually
Oh.
have quick draw cards that you can fill out your own contingency plans, conditions, what to do in that situation. You can get the entire packet and fill it out with your kids. There's all kinds of information that you can put in here. They're even on their quick draw cards. There's contingency conditions. There's PACE plans for your primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency communication. Same with your rally points. And you can kind of peruse through this. I don't think your 5 to 7-year-old is going to need a copy of your exfil plan, but it's in there if you need it.
If they're a cool 7-year-old, they do.
Right?
Like, yeah.
There's an inventory list. So if you are building your child's school backpack into a mini get home bag, they have a list of everything that's there. And these cards, it's only about 4.5, maybe 5 inches long by 2.5, about double the size of a deck of playing cards. They're right in the rain paper, so they're waterproof, they're tough, they're going to stay in your kid's backpack until it's needed. And along with that, if you, as the adult, carry the contingency planner, which is about a 5 by 7, it's got the same stuff that's in the quick draw cards plus some. So, plus authentication tables, your challenge and passcodes, even cipher tables and how to use cipher tables, notes sections, references, larger inventory lists, vehicle notes, all kinds of stuff. And you can actually go to stakeholderprepping.com, follow the link. We also have our code on there, which is stakeholder. And guess what? We save you money. Get an extra 10% off of your entire order if you go to Mad Gear. Use our link, use our code, and start involving your kids in building the actual plan and make sure that everything syncs up. It's super, super easy to do. And these will stay in their backpack until it's needed.
Yeah, that's a really good call. I like that Mad Gear came on board, and they're really cool guys. Like I just really enjoy chatting with them, and they really do know their stuff. And those quick draw cards, that's just cool because yeah, it's a little just a little deck of every single emergency you can think of. You've got the kid that fills it out with you, so it's in their handwriting. They know where it is. It's in the backpack, and then anything that ever happens, no matter where they are, you've got that contingency plan already laid out. If there's a release early from school day because of weather or something like that, the kid can go, "Oh man, if I got out 2 hours early, what am I gonna do?" And you've already got that plan written there for the family, and the kid knows who to call and the phone numbers there and all that kind of stuff. So, that goes into some of actually the skills that I wanted to talk about, Chris, is like knowing that important information. Having that stuff like knowing your teacher's full name, knowing your address, knowing um, the phone number and address for your home or address for your school and all those kinds of things, like being able to having your kid have that stuff in their head. And then for older children, they should know their emergency contacts and where you keep that emergency documentation at home and those kinds of things. And yeah, that rolls into the Mad Gear stuff, that any of those things that are just too much to remember, then it's right there on the quick draw cards and the kid knows where it is. And it doesn't matter if the backpack gets soaked or splashed by the school bus, that paper in there isn't going to run and all that information is there. And if the grid goes down, if the cell phone battery dies, it doesn't matter. That information is always going to be there in that little analog flip book.
Yep, exactly. And it's one of those things. It's a super, super simple and honestly inexpensive piece of gear that provides safety and security to your child when you can't be there with them.
Yeah, for sure. And they sent us some. They sent us their quick draw cards. They sent us their contingency planner, and I'm just impressed with it. It's just very cool. And some of the more advanced features, like outside of stuff you would teach the kid, but yeah, like the cipher tables and things like that, I thought were very interesting. But like you mentioned, having those challenge phrases and things like that, because I remember this is always like you go back, I don't know, in the 80s, we were just so worried about being kidnapped. I don't know, are children not kidnapped anymore? Or is candy so expensive you can't make it free? I don't know what it is, but in the 80s, that was all we talked about was kids getting kidnapped. And it was always that like the scenario they always gave you um on the more you know commercial was like the guy shows up at school and is like, "Hey, I'm a friend of your mom's and I was told to come pick you up." But now the kid's like, I don't know, Flash. And,
You remember the "It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?"
yes,
Those commercials?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the Dateline phenomenon kind of brought it to the forefront, and people started paying the fuck attention.
Yeah, I guess maybe you are right. Maybe it is. It's reality TV. John Walsh did this. The reason we don't have as many kidnappings anymore and nobody gets free candy is because John Walsh was like, "Hey, there's like a bunch of bad people out there." So, um,
I
but
will
yeah,
still get into a van if it says free ammo.
oh my God, a free ammo van. Absolutely. I don't care where you take me. Yeah. Ammo's expensive, but yeah, you're exactly right. So having, having all that information there and having those challenge phrases. So if for some reason you had to send, you know, Uncle Joe to go pick up the kids, you would have that challenge phrase, and the kid would know that it's okay to go with that person, and that's all in that Mad Gear, in their quick draw cards and in your contingency planner.
Yeah. And I think another kind of skill to work on with your children is actually 911 and emergency services. I would
Oh, for
say,
sure.
practice how to dial, when to dial, what to say, your location, what the emergency is. And this is kind of age dependent, but how to stay calm while somebody is talking to you and you're trying to report either a crime or an emergency. There's a very fine line between when it's appropriate for a child to call and when it's not, but we see that kind of it's not used as much as it should be because kids don't know how to use it, or when they are using it, it's not being used appropriately. We have the power to change that. So let's do it.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, like you said, knowing when to call, but yeah, the way to communicate that appropriately to emergency services. It's funny in aviation, there's a way you talk on the radio, and that's something you learn very early in flight lessons because people just have mic fright, right? Because air traffic control talks so quickly. So they teach you it's always who you're calling, who you are, where you are, and what you want to do. And it's always in that order. And that's how they teach you. And it's the same kind of thing with that 911. It's like you can say, here's who I am, here's where I am, and here's what I need. And you can teach it in that structure. And it's very easy for kids. That could be on the chalkboard next to the phone, if anybody still has a home phone. But you know what I mean, where they have this is how you would communicate with emergency services, and then you practice that and drive it home.
And it's the same with a 9-line emergency medevac in the military. When you call in a 9-line medevac, it's those first 6 lines get the bird off the ground. The other 9 or the other 3 to make 9, they are just additional information on hostile troops and terrain and things like that. But the first 6 lines, if you can spit that out, the bird is off the ground and
Right.
on its way for rescue.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you teach the kids to call 911, you say, "Here's my name and here's where I am and I need an ambulance." And then they can get into that creative storytelling. But that first little bit gets the ambulance on the road to that location.
Yep.
Yeah.
Police, fire, ambulance. Which of the 3 do you need?
Right? Yep,
And if it's
exactly.
usually if it's a child that's calling, they're sending all 3 anyways.
Right. Yeah, you're probably right. Exactly. One of the other skills, basic first aid, is something that you can teach kids. Even preschoolers can learn how to put a band aid on a boo boo. Like that's a pretty easy thing to do. And older kids can learn things like how to apply pressure to a cut, recognizing the signs of a sprain, fetching the first aid kit, even, right? Like, go get the adult in the room the first aid kit. That is something that a kid can do. And make it hands-on. If you've got a willing family member that's willing to let the kid, try out their first aid skills, finding a pulse, things like that. So first aid is a pretty basic thing that you can teach kids at a very young age, and they get it, right? Blood bad, bandage good.
Yeah. Same with fire safety. I don't remember the last time I actually had to use it real world because I don't think it's been ever, but stop, drop, and roll. It's kind of that classic
Have
for a
you
reason.
have you ever stopped, dropped, and rolled?
Not while I was on fire, but I have done
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I think there are times when I probably should have and did not. Uh, but yeah, stop, drop, and roll is it's kind of a classic for a reason, right?
We're gonna have to talk about that story off air, but yeah, I mean, teach the kids how to test a door for heat, how to crawl underneath the smoke, um, have that designated family meeting place outside. All of these are small, super simple things that take 10 minutes to learn, an hour to practice all together, and it's set for life. You can drill on it as you need to, but all of the basics are there. So yes, part of fire safety is don't spray lighter fluid directly onto the burning grill. Don't put fireworks in the unlit charcoal briquettes. But part of it is also, hey, it happens. Let's be safe about it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Another big one, skill wise, knot tying. That's super simple. Like, I wish I knew more knots, and I wish we could do an episode on it, but that's a very visual thing. So go to YouTube and look up knot tying. But there's all kinds of really cool knots. But Like, just teaching a kid a square knot or a half hitch can be incredibly useful for securing things or creating shelters or kind of even just for fun. But and I'll talk about that a little bit in our when we talk about gear, but basic knot tying is a very valuable skill. It's something you can teach kids with very limited supplies, and those are skills that they will learn now and they will use for their entire life.
Yeah, and with older kids, alongside the knot tying, you can make a weekend out of it. Go out into a park and go camping or go hiking or something like that, but teach them basic navigation, how to read a simple map, understand the cardinal directions, how to use a compass. This can all be kind of wrapped into one. You go out into the woods, have the kid navigate around. Once they get that down, go practice knots on a tree, have lunch, wrap it up, head back. That's a great day trip.
For sure. And go to our website, use our MyTopo link, and get yourself a map for the kid to use. You can get one of their laminated maps, and that way you can draw on it with dry erase and, erase it. And you can get a map with a larger scale, like a whatever it is, like the 10,000 to 1 scale to teach them. And then you can work into those tighter scales of maps, like a 25,000 to 1. So getting that large scale of map and teaching kids on a dry erase map of their area. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. I just always liked maps, I guess. I just as a kid, I liked having maps around. I don't know about you, but I think maps are cool.
I've always been fascinated by cartography, but I think you're right. If you could get a map from
Mhm.
MyTopo of your neighborhood and then
Right.
just take your kid around and have them mark where they have been on that map and then check it when you get home, they're learning a life skill.
For sure. But give a kid a MyTopo map of your area and have them draw the route that the school bus takes them home every day.
That's a brilliant idea.
You know what I mean? Because how many kids just get in the back of the school bus and don't really know? Like, they just don't know where to turn. If the bus broke down and they had to navigate their way home, I don't know how many kids could do that because you kind of zone out, right? You just don't really pay attention to the direction the school bus goes every day. But yeah, giving a kid a MyTopo map and say, what is the route that your bus takes every day to and from school? What's the route we take when we drop you off? Those kinds of things. So maps are fascinating, and I think kids can really get into them. One
And I
other
think they'll get a kick out of, being able to draw on something that you
right.
really don't care about. They're not drawing on the walls, they're drawing on their map.
Yep, get some dry erase pens and get the map of your area. The custom map is just cool, right? This is a map. The center of the map is our home. You can draw on it. You can put the little star on it, and then you can navigate to your friend's house. You can put that light pole at the end of the driveway. You can mark that where we're supposed to, bug out to if we have a fire and our rally points and all those kinds of things. So maybe I'm just a weird kid because I just like maps. But me as a kid, I would have really liked a custom map that had my home as the center of it.
Yeah, and MyTopo will let you custom name your map. So it could be Emily's map and Joe's map and
Right.
Ashley's map and however you want to label it.
Yep.
So I think that's a great idea.
Yep. Other skills besides like the navigation, not tying, just simply how to use a flashlight and change the batteries. This seems super simple, but in the dark, it can be kinda tough, right? Does the pointy end of the battery go in first or the not pointy end of the battery? And how many kids have tried to, like, hold the flashlight for their dad while they're working on a car, and they just can't master that skill. So, being able to properly properly use a flashlight is huge, right? Where to point it. Don't point it in my face, point it at the thing I'm working on, and, illuminate from behind me so you're not shining it in my face, those kinds of things. Like, proper usage of a flashlight. I mean, I think that I know a lot of adults that can't do that. So it's a valuable skill to teach young.
I think it is too. So let's talk about some gear.
I love gear.
Gear, gear, gear.
Gear, gear,
Um,
gear.
let's talk about go bags for each kid because this
Oh,
one is a
love it.
little bit crucial to what you're doing.
I'm gonna let you take it. That's a good one.
In my opinion, and really this should go adult and child, but it should be lightweight enough for them to carry and contain what they need to go. You don't want to have a 5-year-old running down the street with a 72-liter 5-day assault pack on. That's they're not going to get anywhere. One of the biggest things that you can possibly add in there that seems stupid or insignificant is a comfort item. So that could be a favorite stuffed animal, a small blanket, maybe their favorite book, something to that effect. Have some snacks in there, the non-perishable kid-friendly snacks that they enjoy, but it doesn't require preparation or utensils. Like I said, gushers and beef jerky.
Yeah, you gotta have a protein in there for sure. Yeah, gotta have a protein in there too. Good call.
A water bottle that's filled and ready to go. This is probably, depending on the age, this is going to be one of those things that you have to check whether or not they have drank out of it. And you're going to be responsible for cycling the water out so it doesn't get stale and musty and nasty. Um, I think that's probably overlooked in almost every household. Um, you could add in a small first aid kit, just one of the small hiking ones that you can get from Walmart. They're not expensive, but they've got band-aids and an antiseptic wipe and things like that in them. And then you can also drop in a whistle for signaling if they do get lost or need help. A flashlight, make sure it has batteries in it, but it can be their own flashlight. If they want the bluey one, get them the bluey one. A change of clothes for a go bag, this is awesome because weather appropriate clothing for a child will save them the cold and the rain and the wind, but it's going to save you the headache of having to deal with them whining about the cold, the rain, and the wind. And then I would suggest adding in the quick cards from Mad, have the family contact information, meeting points, things like that on it. And then throwing in a small activity or a toy, maybe a finger puzzle or a fidget spinner or something that they can kind of take their mind off of their situation. That's going to go a very long way with a child.
That's a good call. Uh, Another one I would throw in there, comms devices. This sounds kind of silly and maybe a little inappropriate, but I'm telling you, having walkie-talkies just to get kids used to communicating wirelessly is very interesting because with the walkie-talkie and people that use them know this, that you have to push the button and then you have to wait a little bit longer than a kid wants to wait to talk. So it actually transmits, teaching the kids to say over when they're done. Um, it's great for keeping track of them in a larger area like a park or for short range communications. If you mark on that My Topo map where they will get reception to home and the kid's on the bus, the kid knows that he can contact you on that radio within that range. So that's just kind of cool. Having, just teaching the proper way to use walkie talkies and radios, just those single channel, little easy walkie talkies. And in aviation, we talk about mic fright a lot, and teaching the proper way to talk on a radio. So because kids are kind of famous for these big long run on sentences, and teaching them how to brevity is key. Hand crank solar powered radios, introducing them to how that works. It's tactile, so it's kind of cool. Like you can let the kid crank on it, and that's just kind of neat. Like kids will like to do that. And then along the comms line, AirTag your kids, and there's Android versions of AirTags too. But they make cool little like necklaces they pop into. They make little like wrist straps, so it looks like a watch, but put in an AirTag on your kids and teaching them how that works is just another piece of the communication within your PACE model.
And a friend who kind of looked over this outline, he actually mentioned they make air tags for kids' shoes now. Obviously, the
Oh,
shoes have to stay on the child. So
of
if you're
course, yeah.
anything like me when I was a little kid, shoes were off and I was running barefoot through the grass as soon as I could. But AirTag your kid's backpack. So if the wrong kid goes home with your kid's backpack, you know where to pick it up.
For
AirTag their
sure.
shoes. And that's going to alleviate your concerns partially, not entirely. But if there ever was a kidnapping incident or got lost, you have an idea of where they are.
Yep. Yep. And that's within that PACE model. That's the emergency when it comes to your comms.
And another thing that should probably go into your child's go bag, along the lines of that flashlight, a lot of kids prefer headlamps. I don't know why. It's probably because they have this fascination with wherever they look, it's bright.
No,
Um,
it's spelunking. It's just a spelunking fantasy. Everywhere you go is spelunking if you have a headlamp on.
Fort sofa. Uh,
Fort sofa. Yep.
Yep, digging along the floor under the blankets. But headlamps, a lot of kids do like them, and they can actually be more helpful if you have a child with small hands who can't push the button on that big flashlight, but they do know how to work their headlamp. And then also glow sticks, depending on age. If you've got a kid who's not going to get curious and try to cut the thing open, not just the glow bracelets, but actual glow sticks. They are a great light source. They're fun, they're safe, they don't produce heat, so you don't have to worry about the fire drills. So, uh, we're actually when we go camping, we have glow collars for all of the dogs, and they're all different colors, so we can tell which dog is where just based on the color of the light that's coming off of it. And for a recent trip, uh, we got the 100 pack or whatever, maybe 200 pack of the little 8-inch bracelets, the Snap Glow bracelets, so that everyone knows where they are and we can mark stuff where we haven't been.
It just looks like a little doggy rave at your house.
That's pretty
Just
much what it's going to
little
be.
dogs and glow sticks everywhere. Another one.
You
Yeah, yeah. Oons the dog go to the discotheque. But the I don't know why Germans have to be partiers. I just in my mind, it's always just full of the German dance hall music. But the another good tool, multi-tools. There are a lot of kid-friendly multi-tools. I wish they still made the Leatherman Leap. Leatherman, they got in front of that phenomena and they came out with the Leap, and it was like the first kids multi-tool, and it was made by Leatherman. It was a great tool, but they don't make them anymore, and you got to find them for a lot of money on eBay. So if you're really cool parents, buy your kid a Leatherman Leap. But Kilimanjaro makes one called the Ascend, which is a great bladeless multi-tool that kind of makes it a kid-friendly one. And then Gerber makes the Dime in a blade and bladeless version. And I travel with that. That's like my TSA one because it's a TSA approved multi-tool. It doesn't have a blade on it. So getting the Gerber Dime in bladeless is a great sort of kid multi-tool because it has all the other cool stuff in it, right? It's got the bottle opener and the screwdriver and the pliers and all these other tools you can teach kids to use, but it's kind of hard to hurt themselves with it.
Yeah, and if you ever need it, I carry the dime on my keychain.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great multi-tool.
So, let's talk about meds for kids.
Ooh, okay.
Kids have very different immune systems than adults. They are still growing. They are still building their immunity. So having specific medicines for children that you can throw into your go bag, their go bag, so they're carrying their own stuff. Obviously, if there's an allergy that is life threatening, an EpiPen. Go ahead and spend the money on a separate second EpiPen and have that in the go bag. Children's Tylenol, baby aspirin, things like that. And AC, I kind of want you to take this one over because you've talked with Jace Medical a lot more than I have.
Sure. Yeah. So we actually, before I want to say something, the baby aspirin thing is so funny because last time I went to the doctor, and I don't go to the doctor a lot, but I have to for the FAA for my pilot's license. And the doctor said, "Hey, you're old enough now that you can start taking baby aspirin." What does that mean? What I've lost. It doesn't make any sense at all. I've lost all faith in modern medicine at that point. He's like, "Hey, you're old now. You can take baby aspirin." I don't understand what that means. Um,
And
but
off of our previous episode, you can just take Aspen.
aspen, I just boil the aspen tree root. But yeah, this is a great time to talk about Jace. So we brought them on as an affiliate recently, and Jace is cool because it's not just antibiotics. That's kind of where they started, was in these antibiotic kits. I own one. I take it with me when I travel. It's got all the instructions of when to use it. But Jace has some other really cool stuff now. They have like their cruise kit that has like stuff for seasickness and motion sickness for travelers. treating like diarrhea, like if you've got your kid eating weird stuff because you're eating out of the survival food pantry. And they have asthma and allergy kits now that include the popular steroids for asthma and antihistamines, things like that. They've just got a lot of other things besides the basic antibiotics, things that you need for your children and things that kids, who have like, maybe difficulty breathing because of asthma or allergies, things like that. And they even have like anti-parasite kits because, kids will get into anything, man. They're out there eating dirt. So Jace sells ivermectin and I think
which
it's
is
called.
great for lice. If you ever have a lice breakout at your child's school and you don't want to shave their head, ivermectin is a great way to get rid of them.
That's interesting. I think it's mebendazole. Mebendazole is one of them that's sort of the anti parasite. But Jace has all that stuff now. And I don't know, did you see they have this Jace pantry now? Chris, have you seen that?
I just saw that earlier today. I'm impressed.
They have like emergency food. And because it's National Preparedness Month, Jace gave us a special link that gets you a pretty big discount on stuff. I don't know if you went over some of those discounts, but I think in the Jace Pantry, if you get like their pantry pack, they give you like $50 off if you use our link. So anyway, Jace is awesome. It's not just the meds, it's not just the antibiotics, but it's all kinds of stuff for treating all the weird things that kids can bring home. We have a code, it's on our website, but we also have a link. And if you use our link, then you get a special discount just this month for National Preparedness Month on everything on their website. And then I think you get another $10 off by using our code. And it's a weird code. It's like JAM-3131. It sounds like one of those Army field manuals Chris is always talking about. But I don't know why we couldn't just get prepping or something. But yeah, Jace Medical, check them out. Go to our website, use our link, and you can get you can see all the stuff. I want to say, gosh, the National Preparedness Month deals, it's pretty good. I think you get $25 off the Jace case or $50 off the kid case. And then you can still use our code and get another $10 off. So now is the time to go check out Jace, see all the cool stuff they have. Go to use our link so you get all the extra discounts. And that's just, yeah, Chris and I trying to save you money on this stuff. But having those meds available when you need them, they're pre-prescribed, you've got them in your medicine cabinet, and then they come with all the instructions. And that's the coolest thing, because if the grid's down, if it's the middle of the night, if your kid has symptoms, you don't need to call the doctor. You can say, hey, here's all the instructions I already got from Jace Medical, and you know what meds to administer. And I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's crucial for your sanity and your child's safety. You don't want to OD them on something that,
Right.
they don't need just because you didn't read the instructions.
Right, or
So
you're just guessing, or it rubbed off the bottle, or whatever it is. Having a hard copy of the instructions is just so crucial if you could ever find yourself in a grid down scenario.
yeah, for sure. I think the last thing that I specifically want to add into the child's go bag is hearing protection. And this
Okay.
sounds kind of weird because they may need it, they may not. Kids' ears are a lot more sensitive, and now they do make age appropriate hearing protection systems. So whether it's full ear muffs or the ones that play music, I know almost every time we go to a restaurant, I see some kid sitting there on an iPad with headphones over his ears, just jamming out to whatever he's watching or playing. But they make actual hearing protection that can do Bluetooth and things like that. And that's a great way to keep your kid distracted, especially in a loud environment. If there is something going on, hopefully it's not, gunfire or something like that. But if you've ever been next to a bonfire, imagine how loud a building fire would be.
Sure. Yeah.
And you could be driving past cars that are just blaring their horn nonstop. Or if you did have to get out on foot and you're having to walk past a construction site or something like that, you may as well protect their hearing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what if you had to have like a difficult conversation, um, and you didn't want to have to do that in front of the kids. Just having that hearing protection there may help shield the kids from those uncomfortable conversations. Like if there's only room in the airplane for one of the two kids, you might not want to have that conversation in front of them.
Yeah, there's 10,000 reasons that you might want to have hearing protection. I'm pretty sure the other one would be pretty mad if they got left behind. But
It's it's true, but you know what? Hey, you've got a go bag. The kid will be fine on their own. Kids are resilient. But also the I want to talk about you may use these for shooting, Chris, but you know the Walker Razor headsets? I don't know if you have one of those. I have one. They're
that's
awesome.
my normal go-to for the range day.
Great hearing protection. They pass through. So when it's not loud, the kid can actually hear better. You can turn them up if you want to amplify sounds. If not, it can be always all the way dumbed down and it's just always going to be muffled. But they make a really cool, like the family radio GMRS FRS clip on that it's actually a wireless walkie-talkie that clips onto that headset. And so it's kind of a two for one that the kid can have this hearing protection, but also it can act as the walkie-talkie for the family, and you can set it to the family channel. So I just think that's cool. I mean, they're kind of expensive. I don't know what I paid for mine. Maybe they were 60 or $70, and there's that walkie-talkie attachment or something, but they were just a really cool piece of gear. They're slim, that's why they call them the Razor. They're not like a big giant earmuff. They're slim on the kid's head, but I think those are great. And then lastly, some of the older kid stuff. As kids get older, one that I really think is cool is the paracord bracelet because it's just kind of neat. Uh, but it's a really cool craft project. You can buy these paracord bracelet kits where it comes with the buckles, and then the kid has to make the paracord bracelets. They can size it to themselves. It teaches them how to do that braiding system, right? Like it actually teaches them how to make one. And then we know paracord's good for everything. We could do an entire episode on all the cool stuff you could do with paracord and the little lines inside, but not just the makeshift cord and tying things together. You can do all kinds of stuff, but it teaches the kids this braiding, which is a pretty valuable skill. And this is the funniest thing because paracord hasn't been around kind of forever. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember GIMP as a kid, Chris?
No.
So anybody older, you're a little younger than me, but it was like this plasticky braided stuff that kids would make like keychains and bracelets out of.
I
And it
played
was
with
like,
it all the time. I
yeah,
just knew it as the plastic cord.
the plastic cord, yeah, totally useless in a survival scenario. It's got like no tensile strength. It stretches out, not good for anything. But paracord, on the other hand, pretty awesome. I wish they would have had paracord when I was a kid because yeah, you can use it for all kinds of stuff, and you can deconstruct it and use all the little strands for individual things. So, yeah, the paracord bracelet I think is a very cool one. What else? You got any other ones? We're coming up to the end of the hour. Is there anything else that you can think of in the gear wise or the kid prepping thing?
For an older kid, I would probably say a watch.
For sure. Good call.
But beyond that, I think we've pretty well touched on just about everything that we're set to without having kids. I think the biggest part here is if you have children, get them involved in your planning steps. Have them plan out, dinner without power. Have them plan out their own bug out kit. Have them plan out part of those contingency plans so that they understand them. And you will be surprised what they come up with because kids are sponges. They are going to retain so much more information that you have forgotten about. And they're going to remind you of it. And oh, yeah, well, that makes a good point. Play the what if game, get your kids involved in your own preparedness plans, and be surprised at the success that you'll have.
Yeah, I that's a great way to wrap it up. I could not say it better myself.
Well, I think that is going to do it for this episode. Be sure you join us next week. We actually have a very well-known author, Jennifer Rader, coming on. She's going to walk us through some of her favorite recipes and a whole bunch of other stuff that you will learn something if you come back for that episode. But until then, remember, you are your own stakeholder. We'll see you then.